Velma is the latest adult animated show to be released, and it's come out to a mixed response, that's for sure. Taking the much-loved characters and universe of Scooby-Doo, which dates back to 1969, this show has utilized some of the characters, changed them slightly, and instead of making a family-friendly show, we've got the adult animation show called Velma. With the first 2 episodes being released, I thought I'd break down, review, and explain what this show is all about, and more specifically, why it missed the mark. So let's get into it. Here are my thoughts on Velma. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The first 2 episodes of this show were interesting to say the least. It's the first time that we've really been introduced to an adult version of Scooby-Doo property, and whilst you'd think that it would be easy to transition this show from a family-friendly, everybody can enjoy it kind of show to an adult mystery-solving adventure, I feel this has failed to hit the mark. One thing that I found that this show lacked so early on, which a lot of good shows have from the moment that they start, is a sense of identity. Most quality shows in the early days know where they're sitting on the spectrum of shows, the tone that they're trying to adopt, and what they want to be known for. This show, however, felt as though in the first 2 episodes it was trying all sorts of different things, which ultimately meant that I finished it feeling like there was nothing that made this show have any originality about it. The humour that they're trying to embody within the show, and I feel make a part of its identity, feels a little dated, in the sense that it's relentlessly hammering pop culture references, pushing humour based around being intimate with somebody, and visually striking humour based on nudity just doesn't quite work. Maybe in an era of where it hadn't been done before, it may have got legs, but this just felt like it didn't quite know what it was trying to achieve in its humour, as it was throwing everything out there. So its inability to make people laugh seems to be a bit of a problem, because it's marked as a comedy. Don't get me wrong, there were the odd moments where I laughed. I think there were 2, which, considering it feels like there are dramatic moments and a joke every other line of dialogue, isn't good. When it comes to the story of the show, it seems like there are 2 cases that are going to be running throughout the entirety of the first season. The case of the person who's killing students and removing their brains, and also the case of where Velma's mother is. Velma's mother left her and her father when she was younger, and Velma feels a sense of responsibility and guilt for that, due to the fact that her mystery-solving abilities led her to discover her Christmas presents early, and her mother then went out to fetch something for Velma to open on Christmas Day, which was the last time that she was seen before she vanished. This is something that we've seen leads Velma to have hallucinations that take over her mental and physical state and paralyze her due to the guilt that she feels. In terms of the story, it's relatively interesting, and when the mystery solving is taking place, it's bearable to watch. I actually quite like the scenes where Velma has the hallucinations, because it looks like a bit more effort gets put into the animation, and it goes from being a webtoon looking show to a show that brings a sense of something into it, something just a bit different. The creepy, dark, glitchy type animation style works really well in providing the sense of wanting to escape and the guilt and fear that Velma has pent up within her. I feel like Velma's mother is definitely going to have something to do with the girls that are being killed at the school in the main case that Fred has been accused of, but I imagine we'll see more of that as time goes on. In terms of the characters, I think this is where another one of the biggest issues lie. None of them are actually that likable. Taking a group of characters that we've seen on screen as good friends, riding around in the mystery machine and forming bonds and solving mysteries is something that we're used to seeing. However, with this show, it appears as though they're all leading their own lives and they all just seem to be quite annoying, rude, and unlikable, as everybody in the school that Velma is at seems to be. Instead of Shaggy, we've got the character Norville, who is besotted with Velma, and is the comedic character of the show, just like how Shaggy was. He's probably one of the characters that I don't actually mind that much. However, the big thing about Shaggy was his connection to Scooby and the fact that they bounced off of each other in terms of their comedy. So I'm intrigued to see how long Norville will last being the way that he is. We've got Fred, who is a rich boy who's had no life experience and portrays a typical person who's been sheltered his whole life but is popular, something that feels extremely exaggerated and over the top already, and that's after 2 episodes. Gags like not knowing somebody's name can be funny, but when it's done 3 times in a row, it proves to get a bit stale. And then we've got Daphne, who is what I would compare to a mean girl. She used to be best friends with Velma, but her newfound popularity caused them to drift apart. This was until in the 2nd episode we saw them share a kiss after Velma got caught up in one of her hallucinations. And that was Daphne's way of getting her out. So I imagine we're going to see a relationship blossom between both of these characters. And then finally, we've got Velma. There's something about the awkward Velma that we know from the shows before that does get lost in this show. She's a nerd at school, but it doesn't seem like she's really that intelligent like the one before, nor does she face the hardships. But it does feel as though this is a slightly different type of character that isn't really leaning in on the past iterations. I feel Mindy Kaling does a good job at voicing the character, and like Norville, she's one of the better characters in the show. I just hope we see more of a human side to her as the season goes on. I feel that's bound to come out with the more that we explore the side of the case of Velma's missing mother. The art style of the show definitely feels like an interesting choice. Like I said earlier, it feels a bit like a cheap webtoon, but there are really good moments within it, such as the hallucination scenes and also scenes where they go a bit darker, or we get emotions on the faces of the characters. That's something that I feel allows it to have some sense of identity. It's a unique style when that happens, but outside of that, it just feels a little cheap and not that engaging or pleasant on the eye. Animation doesn't have to be the glossiest thing that you've ever seen, but this show just feels a little cheap when watching. Do I see this show getting better as the weeks go on? I think it can marginally improve. But what it seems as though is ingrained within the core of this show is going to be the very thing that means that it can't improve that much. The over-the-top, slightly dated comedy, relentless hammering of jokes, leaning in on stereotypes so much that it's beyond satire, and the fast-paced nature of it makes it feel like it doesn't really have a place on a platform. I don't think it needed to try and do all of that. It could have just created a good set of characters that were likable, provided the two mysteries that we currently have, focused on them a bit more, and just added dashes of humour throughout it. But it did the opposite. I think this show would have worked better as an anthology series, providing a new case every episode for the 4 weeks that the show was running. It could have allowed us to see different sides to the characters, different villains, mysteries, and I think it would have just been that little bit more exciting. I'm going to stick with this show and see how it turns out, as I hope that it can get marginally better and embody what made the show that we came to love many years ago so good. But realistically, I don't see that happening. So, there you have it. My thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the show Velma. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this show? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.